What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the NFL Betting Show here with FTN. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez. We got the prop god in the building. We got Sam Chowdhury in the building. Looking forward to week 14. I can't believe we are at week 14 already in the fantasy world. This is like the last week before the fantasy playoffs. A lot of people are in win and get in kind of situations, and there are 6 teams on the bye, so a limited slate. I know my man Sam was telling me earlier he thought the prop market was a little bit thin. And also, happy belated birthday to our guy Sam, who let us know that it's always around the Thanksgiving holiday. How'd it go? How was your Thanksgiving, brother, man? And like, is it okay to have your birthday right around the holiday too? I feel like you get short shrift sometimes, but you were still able to do it up.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's kind of nice. It's like a tradition to have like the Thanksgiving meal or supper or whatever sort of midday and then get the cake at night, for me and my brother. So, yeah, it's always good fun.
All right, sounds good. And Prop, how are you doing? I know you were traveling around. You got babies left and right. We were making plays on the NBA show yesterday, guys, if you didn't catch it. And by the way, subscribe to the FTN YouTube channel. All right, because this way, you get notified every time we go live, whether it's the NFL betting show, the NBA betting show, our guys Alex Blickel and Two Gun going for the millie, hooking you up, Aaron Schatz giving you DVOA insights, and so much more. But if you weren't with us yesterday on the NBA show, our guy Prop was doing double duty. Did Zyla eventually go down, get her food? Is she all right today?
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good.
She's out for the count right now, but hopefully she gives us time enough to finish the show.
Listen, if we hear her in the background, let us know where she is leaning for week 14, and we'll get those plays in as well. Here you see all the games there on week 14. I think there are some interesting divisional matchups. I think there are some teams that are kind of like, if not now, then when, for their playoff push. But we will start it off with you, Sam. One of these divisional matchups that I think are really interesting is out in the NFC West. In the beginning of the season, everybody thought the San Francisco 49ers were going to dominate this division. Now they've got their running back room completely decimated. They go up to Buffalo on Sunday night last week and get absolutely crushed. They don't look like they're going to be winning the division, but Seattle and Arizona are still competitive for that division title. They match up on Sunday. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, this was a line that I wanted to look at right away, see where it opened at. And it's going to be the Marvin Harrison Jr. over 3.5 receptions. We got an interesting quote before the game, before kickoff last Sunday. They asked Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon about Marvin Harrison Jr. Lack of involvement. We saw that it's pretty much all season long been sort of the Trey McBride show. Everything through the passing game has gone through Trey McBride, but Gannon pretty much told the media that, yeah, we're going to get him going today. The passing game is going to go through him. He'll impact the game. So, I mean, I ended up taking the 3.5 before the game. Even before the quote, I wanted to sprinkle it in. I went even heavier after I saw the quote, just because 3.5, I mean, it's such a low number. And this guy's a number 4 overall pick. So he hasn't been consistently hitting this line, but I figured if they did want to feature him, they could have. It was a sweat in the first half, but it ended up being his best usage game of the season. On the day, he had 5 receptions on a career high, 12 targets for 60 yards and a score. And that was against a really good Vikings defense, who we have right now a 2nd overall in DVOA against the pass. So I'm just sort of playing into the narrative. We do see rookies sort of back half of the season really start to catch fire. So if they want to get him involved, I do think he looks better coming out of the bye. I think he should be able to get it done here. And especially against Seattle, they allow the 10th most targets per game to opposing wide receivers. And like I said, it pretty much just flows through Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. So all in all, it's a pretty low number. We have it as a pretty good rating too. On the wide receiver cornerback matchup tool, he has Josh Jones as a primary defender at a 69.5 rating. That's 16th among all wide receivers this week. So decent matchup. And again, like I said, it's just such a low number. For if they want to get him involved, I think they can.
Fair enough. Listen, I heard that as well, the quote about Marvin Harrison Jr. And I got to tell you, on the SiriusXM show, we sometimes use the Coach Speak Index, which literally shows like the coaches what they say. And then if it turns out to be a lie, the number one coach to not trust, by the way, is Sean Payton over in Denver, because we have no idea what running back is going to wind up doing his thing, right? He could say Audric Estime is going to get work, then it's Javonte Williams. The last couple of weeks, it's been Jaleel McLaughlin. So that one, it feels like you're playing whack-a-mole with you. Sam, I agree with you that it's Trey McBride, that it's Marvin Harrison, but don't forget about the guy that I am going to rely on in this same game, and that is the running back, James Conner. I've got him going over 61.5 rushing yards. You can get that at minus 114 over on FanDuel. One of the metrics that I like, remember, Prop, when I put you on to the explosive run percentage, one of the other stats that I like, especially on the defensive side, is the stuffed run rate. Okay, that's when the defense either tackles the running back for no gain or behind the line of scrimmage, right? So you're looking for defenses that do that well, and you're looking for defenses that don't do that at all. And Seattle is the latter. Their stuff rate is only 16.3%. That is the third lowest rate in the NFL. So to kind of break that down for you, I don't think Conner is going to get stuck at the line of scrimmage or for negative yards pretty much at all in this one. The Seattle Seahawks run defense, they also give up 4.7 yards per carry. That is 8th worst in the NFL. And Conner, they rely on Conner, especially if the game is in a neutral game script. If the Cardinals are not blowing teams out, we're not seeing Trey Benson. We're not seeing DeMercado. They ride James Conner, and Conner has been really, really good. I think he's one of the more under-respected backs in the entire NFL. His 52 avoided tackles are third best in the NFL. He gets 3.1 yards after contact, which is 7th best among running backs. So Seattle doesn't stuff you. They got time for Conner to get going. He can avoid the tackles and get extra yards as he falls forward and is a tough runner. His 13.7% of runs that are explosive, that go for 10 or more yards, are 8th best in the NFL. And I believe they're going to feed him. And in the last few games, if he gets 16 or more carries, he has gotten at least 68 yards in 6 of those 7 games. And don't look now. I hear what Sam is saying about McBride, about Marv, but the Arizona Cardinals actually run the ball 46.5% of the time. That is a top 10 rate in the NFL. I think they're going to run the ball a lot because they're also going to try and keep Seattle off the field with that passing offense. And if you remember, these guys played about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Everyone thought that there was going to be production, there was going to be fantasy goodness, and the game wound up to be 16-6 for goodness sakes. Okay, so I actually think that maybe though that the narrative around the tough divisional matchup could be a little bit more grinding. I think that all plays for James Conner to actually do work over 61.5 yards. You can get that one over at FanDuel. Before we go to prop, I got our guy MLB Dream saying going back to the well with Marvin Harrison. We got Husto being like, yo, what up? Remember, he's probably subscribed. He's checking us out every time he gets that notification. And then also people shouting out Prop SD saying, yo, what's going on, Prop? So you get out there. So let's go to you, Prop, for your first matchup or first play of the week, another divisional matchup, this time in the AFC North with the Steelers and the Browns. I mean, the Browns, under Jameis Winston, they look a little bit different. They are still giving it up, but you are going with a wide receiver on the Pittsburgh side, which literally, Prop, since Russell Wilson has taken over, all of a sudden Pickens has really gone off.
Yes, sir. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because that's some of the numbers I got. So Pickens is over the 70-plus receiving yards in 5 out of 6 games with Russell Wilson, averaging 81 points. Pretty much 81 yards a game compared to in 6 games with Justin Fields, he averaged 60.5. So Russell has, made the passing offense more explosive. And we know when he gets his go-to guy, the chemistry is pretty unmatched. Looking at the Steelers offense, Wilson has thrown the ball 35 or more times in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. He only threw it 28 times against Cleveland, but they played in a snowball. So I'm expecting, I'm expecting Pittsburgh to right the ship. It's a revenge game. It's in Pittsburgh this time. I think the Steelers will actually win the game too. And we go over to the wide receiver matchup tool at wide receiver cornerback matchup tool with FTN, and Pickens has the 3rd best matchup of the week. He's sitting at a 88.5 matchup rating. We got him projected to be facing Martin Emerson Jr. a lot of the game. So I think Pickens is in a great spot. I feel like with Russell Wilson as his QB, I made a bold take about 2 weeks ago. I think he's going to be top 5 in the league for the foreseeable future. So I'm a big Pickens fan, and I think he's in a great spot this week.
Yeah, I really like this play as well, Prop. You mentioned what the numbers have been with Russell Wilson over in the fantasy world. He's been like a low-end wide receiver 1, a high-end wide receiver 2, and I think he's a great fit for Russell Wilson, right? Like Russell Wilson throws that deep moon ball. You know, the A dot for George Pickens has always been high, and Pickens has always been great at the contested catch. If you go on over to our stats over at FTN, I think he has second most contested catches in the entire NFL. I think behind just Scary Terry, and that's about it. So I think Russell Wilson, who likes to give his receivers a chance to make a play, fits really well with him. In this game as well, Sam, you know, you are going with a wide receiver on the other side, a wide receiver who absolutely went bonkers on Monday night with over 200 yards receiving in a revenge game against the Denver Broncos. You're going back to the well with Jerry Jeudy, who has become the #1 wide receiver for Cleveland, the favorite target for Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a play that I'm just going to keep going back to the well until it busts. I mean, I've given out this prop a couple times. I think the first time I did it, it was at 3.5. Now, I mean, it's been 4.5 for a couple weeks now, and he still just continues to smash it. I mean, with Jameis Winston, he has 5+ receptions in all 5 games. He's averaging almost 10 targets per game, up at 9.8. He's averaging 6.6 grabs for 122.8 yards. Obviously, you mentioned it. He just had a career game last week. Saw 13 targets on the day for 235 yards. He had a 21.3% target share. And that was probably even a tougher matchup against the Denver defense, who has been elite at shutting down wide receiver 1. But I think the big thing was, aside from the revenge factor, was we saw no Cedric Tillman. Again, he had a 21.3% target share. So before Cedric Tillman missed this past game, when Amari Cooper got traded, so from week 7 to 12, Cedric Tillman actually led the team with a 19.2% target share. So, and that was the only stretch of games where he played over 40% of snaps. So when he was a full-time player, he was sort of him and Jeudy were marginally separated, but he did have the slight edge. But with Jameis Winston under center, it has been Jerry Jeudy. Even if you just exclude the monster game that he had this past week, it's been Jerry Jeudy slightly ahead. But without Tillman, it's pretty much just condenses into Jeudy, Njoku, and Elijah Moore, who's been really solid with Winston as well. But again, I'm just going to keep playing this prop. Against Pittsburgh, the last game, he went 6 for 6, caught all 6 of his targets for 85 yards, which, I mean, it's a great game for Jerry Jeudy for his career. I mean, 85 yards, but with Winston under center, it's sort of a quiet game for him. So I think they're just going to keep riding Jeudy, and they're just going to let Jameis Winston continue to rip it. I understand this Pittsburgh defense is elite. They're top 8 in pass defense DVOA, but Jameis Winston, I mean, his passing prop is at 254.5. So he's about to hover in that 260 range, which again, against this Pittsburgh defense, that's just stout against the pass. So if Vegas thinks that Winston is going to continue to sling it through the air, I think he's going to go to Jerry Jeudy a lot. I like it regardless of Cedric Tillman's status, but if you want to wait to take this after he gets ruled out, if you feel better about that, that's completely fine. Like I said, I played this prop last time with Tillman in against Pittsburgh, so I feel completely fine after he got 6 the last time, going right back to the well. Like I said, it is a tough matchup, but we actually have it slightly positive when you look at the cornerback wide receiver matchup tool. He has a 70.7 rating against Cameron Sutton, which is 14th among all receivers this week. So slightly net positive there.
All right, sounds good. And Prop, you said you were on this play as well. Do you have anything to add? I mean, the Cedric Tillman thing is interesting. He is still out with the concussion, so we'll get news on him today and obviously in the Friday practices, but he still has to go through that concussion protocol. And you're right, it's been coalescing around Moore, Njoku, and of course, Jerry Jeudy as well. But Prop, you said you liked this play as well, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, Sam pretty much covered everything. I just think Cleveland's going to be a run first. I mean, I'm sorry, a pass first offense anyway with Jameis. So, and I mean, Judy's his guy. I think just off the volume alone, I can't look at it like an NBA bet, even though he's a receiver, but the volume for Jeudy is going to be insane. So I think he'll just continue to cover this number. And I would play this up until they start putting them at 74.5, things like that. 64.5, 65.5 is just too low.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree. And by the way, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think it's a good point that Prop made, sort of comparing it to NBA. We sort of see this with when guys they get different rotations. If someone's out of the starting lineup, they sort of set the lines based on their median projection.
Right.
If Judy had been this, I mean, if James Winston started from week one, we'd probably see his reception just continue to be at 5.5. Like I said, he's averaging 6.6 grabs per game. It's the same thing as NBA that. A guy that, for example, I wrote up today was Malik Monk. Like they can't accurately put his lines what it should be because he just started going to the starters rotation. So it has to be a median projection, but you can't put Jerry Judy's line on his median projection when he's a completely different player with just the last handful of weeks with Winston. So I thought that was a really good comp there.
No, it's interesting, right? Like the algorithm doesn't catch up that quickly. I think the same thing, you guys big in the NBA. I think about the same thing with a guy like Dalton Connect. The difference between him when he's in the starting lineup versus not. Our guy MLB Dream also saying, look at the increase for Pickens when it's been Russ under center, right? I mean, Russ threw for 400 yards, I think, last time against Cincinnati, but with Justin Fields, they were more run heavy. The other thing I'll say about the Cleveland thing, guys, is in the fantasy world, because you're talking about Jameis, another thing to consider is Jerome Ford over Nick Chubb, okay? Because Nick Chubb does not look like he has it, and Jerome Ford is the back that is on the field more in passing down work, and Jerome Ford is only on rosters in about 35 or 40% of fantasy leagues. We got JS in the building. We got G Money 609 in the building. We got MB in the building. We got Chi-Town Kicks, and a nice note here from Wavy Visions as well, saying, what up to Prop? Hope everybody's doing well. Peace and blessings, everybody, as we get into the holiday season. All right, I got to give you a play as well. If you saw the thumbnail for today's show, it is good old Sammy D and the purple stuff, if you remember that Sunny Delight commercial. And I am going with Sam Darnold here against the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, the Atlanta Falcons are bad. And when it comes to their pass defense, all right, they allow 71.6% completion percentage against them. That is the worst in the NFL. They also only have 15 sacks on the season. That is the fewest in the NFL. They have 310. Another stat that I love on Stats Hub is the clean pocket attempts, right? And they've allowed 310 clean pocket attempts against them. Second most in the NFL. Let me translate that for you, okay? They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. They allow that quarterback to stand and deliver, and they are getting balls completed against them. Now they have Sam Darnold, who has what I like to call his three sons in the building, Jefferson, Hockenson, Addison, and he has a 79.9% adjusted completion percentage, 8th best in the NFL. So you give Sam Darnold time with all of these weapons, he is going to find somebody, he is going to complete it. When I'm looking at this yardage prop, Sam Darnold also has the best completion percentage in the NFL on throws that go over 20 yards, on the air yards, right? Deep throws. Sam Darnold is completing them at the best rate in the NFL. I think Justin Jefferson's going to be able to eat. I think TJ Hawkinson's going to be able to eat. I think Jordan Addison's going to be able to eat. And our guy Prop has also given out at times Aaron Jones in the passing game as well. I think this all combines for Sam Darnold to be over a number of 241.5. He has gone over this number in 6 of his last 7 games. He averages over 245 yards for the season. And in this game also, remember, Kirk Cousins coming back to Minnesota in that kind of revenge game narrative. But I think Sam Darnold is going to show up, show out, and prove to Minnesota fans that there's no problem with him being the new quarterback there. Remember, they got Daniel Jones, they got J.J. McCarthy, but Sam Darnold is going to continue to do work, in my opinion. So I like him over 241.5 passing yards. You can get that at minus 110 over at Bet365. We got Zyla in the building right now. So here's what we're going to do. What I think is funny is the next thing we were going to, both Prop and Sam are on the same exact play. So you need to go run to the window right now because they both like it. You know who else likes it? The FTN prop tool, okay? I go and I look and I see kind of what are the biggest edges on the props throughout the week. This one is the number 1 edge for props in the entire NFL this week. There is a 30% edge on this prop, while is busy doing some things. I'll let Sam go first, knowing that Prop loves it as well. Sam, where are you going? You're going with a receiver who literally in the fantasy world just continues getting deep touchdowns and is making himself relevant as the number 2 wide receiver for Will Levis.
Yeah, I sort of just accidentally stumbled on this. I was initially looking at Calvin Ridley, was sort of looking at the revenge game narrative, was going to see if the books were going to price that in. And I'd say he's sitting at around 60, which I would say just for the type of player he is, they are sort of baking it in. But then, yeah, as I was scrolling, I saw this 33 and a half. And I mean, it was just wild to me to see that number. NWI isn't someone that I haven't taken a single prop of him this year, but I mean, this is such a low line. So since DeAndre Hopkins was traded, he has 39 or more yards in 5 out of 6 games. Overall, he's averaging 57.7 yards. So just completely shattering this number. And on top of all of that, I mean, this is the best matchup on the slate. He's facing a Jacksonville defense that's dead last in DVOA against the pass, and they're dead last against wide receiver in DVOA against wide receiver too. So he actually even has a slightly better matchup than Calvin Ridley. Wide receiver 2s on average are averaging 66.6 yards against Jacksonville. On our DVOA adjusted fantasy points against tool, wide receiver 2s see a plus 32% boost compared to their median average. Again, like I said, NWI's median average is around 57.7 yards without Hopkins. So, I mean, it's just a plus 32% boost. He's going to shatter it. So, I think it's a good ladder spot, too. You can go the 30 plus. You can take that at minus 140. You can take the 33 and a half at minus 110 and ladder yourself up from there. But regardless, I think it's a number that he's going to shatter. Again, going back to since DeAndre Hopkins was traded, he has a 15.2% target share, which isn't great, but relative to this team, he's right behind Calvin Ridley. And I think Calvin Ridley is definitely going to get his. Again, like I said, he was the guy that I was initially looking at for the revenge game factor, but 33 and a half, he only needs 1 catch. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty easy look there.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. You mentioned the DVOA with the Jaguars defense. Their pass defense is really kind of in the bottom tier on most passing categories. The other thing I'll say is, he actually had more targets, Sam, than Calvin Ridley last week. He had 8 targets. So that narrative that he's just kind of a big play boom or bust guy, kind of goes by the wayside when he actually is getting those targets from Will Levis. And, over the last few games, he's actually averaging 75 yards per game. So that's pretty much more than double this number. So I like the latter look. I mean, Prop, you are on this as well. Do you have anything you want to add when it comes to the NWI prop in this one? You're muted, though.
What about now?
Yeah, you're good. NWI, I mean, Sam is all over it. The matchup is great. He's been bonkers lately. What do you think, Prop? Anything to add?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was the edge I saw when I looked at the prop tool. And usually when we have someone projected like that, it doesn't go wrong. Then I looked into the data and I saw everything that Sam saw. I mean, I've been targeting the Jaguars secondary all season long. He already said the worst team against wide receiver 2s. And then Westbrook, he is wide receiver 2 now. I think his target share full season is sitting at 9%, but over the last 4 weeks, he's sitting at about 15.5%. So
yep.
I think he's in a great spot. I picked him up in a couple of fantasy leagues too. So
yeah, no, absolutely. The touchdowns have been there. The big plays have been there. And I like the latter call from Sam as well, because listen, he gets one of those big plays. I think his touchdown last week was like a 97-yarder, right? So you wind up laddering him up. You get that all right then and there. I'm going to give you guys a play here from Monday Night Football. I love Chase Brown in this spot on Monday Night Football against Dallas. Rob is nodding his head, so maybe he's with me on this one. And let me tell you why. First of all, I told you about that stuff rate. The Dallas run defense is piss poor. Okay, they only stuff 14% of runs. That is the worst in the entire NFL. They give up almost 5 yards a carry. Their run defense is tied for 3rd worst in the NFL. And they're giving up 37, 38 yards a game in the passing game to running backs. That is bottom 10 in the NFL. And Chase Brown, listen, they traded away, that had Zach Moss get hurt. Then they acquired Khalil Herbert, but Khalil Herbert fumbled in his literally first snap as a Bengal, and it has been Chase Brown Chase Brown, okay? In the last few games, Chase Brown has been getting 24 touches a game. That is bell cow workhorse kind of work. If he sees that many touches, heck, if he sees 20 touches against this Dallas Cowboys defense, I think he goes over this number. He has had 94 or more passing and receiving yards in his last 4 games. 3 of those games were against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Los Angeles Chargers. And let me tell you something, the Dallas Cowboys are not that level of defense. I also think the Cincinnati Bengals, who are like 5 or 6 point favorites in this one, I think they will be able to get up and then use Chase Brown also kind of in that, running game script to continue to grind it out. All that combined, I think Chase Brown gets over this number that you can get at minus 118 on Caesars. All right, so we're going to finish it off with you, prop. I know, listen, there's a guy out there in Vegas, had a huge game on Black Friday against Kansas City. Aiden O'Connell is targeting him, potentially the best rookie tight end season of all time. You're going back to the well against the Tampa Bay pass defense that can be had.
Yes, sir. So Brock Bowers, over the 67.5 receiving yards. Just targeting Tampa Bay. They've been a target against tight ends all season long. They're allowing them to produce at a rate 11% above league average per our DVOA fantasy points against Tua. And Bowers, I mean, he's just been a machine. I want to say he was the best player drafted in that draft, especially as of right now, from coming in from last season. So I just think that just off the volume alone, Aiden O'Connell looked pretty serviceable against the Chiefs, which I was surprised to see. I know the Chiefs defense is kind of reeling a little bit, but it's a much tougher task than what he'll see against Tampa Bay, with tight ends. So a huge Brock Bowers fan this Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, people in the comments, Daily Picks Green going all the way up the ladder, talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's going more, 7, 8, 9. Then we got Derwin Thomas in there as well. MLB Dream giving you something else for the NWI, that it's minus 125 at DK. That play over on our prop tool, it's a 27.76% edge. Absolutely. Yep. We got people out there laughing as well. And you mentioned Brock Bowers, prop. He's right now the 3rd choice for the Rookie of the Year. He's at 10-1. Jaden Daniels is a big-time favorite at minus 270. And don't sleep now. Bo Nix at around 3-1 is interesting to me because Daniels has regressed a little bit. Bo Nix and the Broncos are coming on. So watch that one as well. 360 boys. So trying to rob FanDuel. Let's go get the books. I agree with that. All right, let's get out of here on this, guys. I put up the matchups for week 14. I'm going to give you a dog that I like, okay? And it's on Sunday Night Football. It's the Los Angeles Chargers in a divisional matchup against Kansas City. All right, 4 points they are now getting at some books. Listen, we had Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star on my SiriusXM show, me and Mike Randall, SiriusXM Channel 87, the Fantasy Channel, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. This is wild. Check this out. He told us, we were talking about the Chiefs. In the last 5 games for the Chiefs, they have been outscored in regulation. And they're 4-1 in those games. Okay, at Tampa, obviously it went to overtime. They beat Denver by only 2, Carolina by only 3, Vegas by only 2, and then they lost to the Buffalo Bills by 9 points. They have a minus 2 point differential in regulation over the last 5 games, and somehow they are 4-1 in those games. They are not beating anybody. Their point differential is the 6th best in the AFC. So I know they're 11-1. I know they're the 1 seed, but they're not pulling away from anybody. The Chargers always play them tough. The Chargers need this one. The Chargers ain't scared of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm getting more than a field goal. I will take it as a dog of the week from your Great Dane. Woof, woof. I'll go on over to Sam. You like any dogs this week?
Nothing really stands out. I do like the one that you said, but just looking at it, no real standout plays here.
No problem. So, but you could be with me on the Chargers prop. We'll finish off with you. Anybody you like that could be a dog? Any other insights games you're interested in?
So originally, I think 12.5 is a lot of points for how Carolina has been playing, but I mean Philly is a machine.
Yeah.
So I had a couple leans. I can see the Bears competing with the 49ers because their season is over.
Right.
But I hate the Bears. I'll let you know how low I am on the 49ers right now. And then the Chargers were my favorite, but you already stole them. So and I still can see the Chiefs winning by like 3, but
Exactly.
the Chargers 7-4 because I think the Chargers kind of come back down to reality over the last 2 weeks. The Falcons are a bad football team. They barely escaped with that win, even though Kirk Cousins threw the ball away 6 times, I think, or 4 times. It's 4 times. I'm sorry, 4 interceptions. So
all right.
yeah, I think those are my 3. And in order, it would be the Chargers.
That's all right. It sounds like we all on the Chargers. Then Zyla's in the building there as well. Don't you worry about it. Listen, that's another edition of the NFL Betting Show. You can get all of Sam's work, all of Prop's work out there at FTN. Make sure you get down with the For the Numbers family. You could always hear me on SiriusXM with our guy Mike Randall, 1 to 3 p.m. By the way, run on in on these. Westbrook Akini, a 30% edge. Both of these guys on it. Both of these guys like Jerry Jeudy. All of these guys were on some of the same plays and some of the same games. Run right now and click submit before these numbers change. We'll see you back next week right here for another edition of the NFL Betting Show. For my guy Sam Chowdhury, for the prop god, and for his little one right there, I'm merely the spitting statistician Dane Martinez. We'll see you back next week. Go on and get those plays in. We out. Peace.